What happens when a team abandons their rules and lets two championship rivals battle without restrictions? Why is Mark Webber actively exploring exit options for Oscar Piastri just weeks after Singapore? And could Max Verstappen's experience in wheel-to-wheel title battles become the deciding factor while McLaren tears itself apart? The answers to these questions could completely reshape the 2024 championship fight, and it all comes down to what happens at Circuit of the Americas this weekend. Formula One has arrived in Austin, Texas, and the McLaren situation has reached a critical breaking point. Let's understand what we're dealing with here. Oscar Piastri leads Lando Norris by 22 points heading into Austin. That gap exists because of one moment in Singapore. Turn 1 contact initiated by Norris that changed everything between these teammates. McLaren's response? They've reportedly abandoned their Papaya rules entirely. The team will now let Piastri and Norris race freely with no guidelines to prevent another collision. Zak Brown has stated publicly that they want to give both drivers equal opportunity and let the best man win. But here's what makes this fascinating. This weekend features 4 separate competitive sessions where these two will be battling each other. Sprint qualifying on Friday, the sprint race Saturday morning, main qualifying Saturday afternoon, and the Grand Prix on Sunday. That's 4 distinct opportunities for tension, controversy, and potential disaster. And all of this is happening at Circuit of the Americas, where the famous uphill blind approach to turn 1 has produced countless first lap incidents over the years. The track itself is 3.426 miles long with 20 turns, known as one of the best overtaking circuits on the calendar. If Piastri and Norris are running first and second into that corner, either on Saturday or Sunday, will they make it through cleanly? McLaren's decision to let them race freely means there will be no team orders preventing aggressive moves. But there's a bigger problem brewing behind the scenes that McLaren might not be able to control. And it involves someone who's been in this exact situation before. On the surface, this looks like a straightforward championship battle between teammates. McLaren has already secured the Constructors' Championship, so their entire focus is on the driver's title. Andrea Stella is under pressure to manage this correctly, and the team appears committed to letting their drivers settle it on track. The conditions at Austin should theoretically favor McLaren. The MCL 38 has been dominant on high and medium downforce circuits this season. The track features a mix of high-speed sections and technical corners, which plays directly to McLaren's strengths. With both drivers likely to start near the front, it seems like McLaren's championship to lose. But here's where the situation becomes more complex. Mark Webber, Piastri's manager, has been putting serious pressure on McLaren according to multiple reports. Sources indicate he's actively exploring exit options for Piastri and using the threat of a move to Ferrari or another team as leverage. This isn't just posturing. Webber experienced similar treatment at Red Bull when he felt he was being treated as secondary to Sebastian Vettel. He remains extremely sensitive to any signs that Piastri isn't getting equal treatment at McLaren. The Singapore incident, where Norris made contact with his teammate, has clearly triggered concerns about whether Piastri is truly being prioritized as a championship contender. The timing of these conversations is significant. With 6 races remaining and 199 points still available across the final rounds, Webber appears to be establishing leverage now, before the championship is decided. But while McLaren deals with internal politics, there's someone else watching this situation very carefully. Someone with experience that neither Piastri nor Norris possesses. Max Verstappen sits 63 points behind Piastri. That seems like a lot, but here's what the numbers reveal. 3 of the remaining 6 races are sprint weekends with extra points available. After Austin comes Mexico, then Brazil, each offering additional scoring opportunities. Verstappen has shown improved form recently, and Red Bull's upgrades appear to be working. But more importantly, he brings something to this situation that changes everything: experience in championship battles that go down to the wire. We saw in 2021 how Verstappen handled the pressure of a title fight that reached its conclusion on the final lap. He doesn't make mistakes under pressure. That cannot always be said for Norris, who has shown vulnerability in critical moments this season. And after Baku, perhaps not for Piastri either. The four-time world champion understands something crucial. He doesn't need to beat both McLarens on pace. He just needs to maximize points while they take points off each other. Every time Piastri and Norris battle, every point they cost each other, Verstappen gets closer. The sprint weekend format makes this strategy even more viable. With limited practice time, teams have less data to optimize their setups. This compressed schedule creates opportunities for mistakes and surprises. McLaren's pace advantage might be less decisive when teams only get 1 hour of practice before sprint qualifying. And the weather forecast adds another variable that could tip everything in Verstappen's favor. Austin's weather outlook shows scorching conditions throughout the weekend. Temperatures are forecast to hit 33 degrees Celsius on Friday and Sunday, with Saturday slightly cooler at 30 degrees. These elevated temperatures will significantly impact tire degradation and strategy. The hot weather makes tire management crucial over the 56-lap Grand Prix distance. Teams will need to decide between one-stop and two-stop strategies, and the undercut could be powerful here. If a safety car appears at the wrong moment, it could completely change the race outcome. This is where experience matters. Verstappen has won championships managing these exact variables: tire degradation in heat, strategic calls under pressure, and capitalizing on competitors' mistakes. If McLaren's drivers are too focused on beating each other, they might miss the strategic opportunities that Verstappen will exploit. For McLaren, this weekend is absolutely critical because it sets the tone for 3 consecutive sprint weekends. How they handle Austin determines everything that follows in Mexico and Brazil. If they can get through cleanly with Piastri extending his lead, they'll be in great shape heading into the final races. But if tensions explode, if there's contact between their drivers, if team orders become necessary, if Webber's pressure campaign intensifies, then Verstappen suddenly has a realistic path back into championship contention. The Dutchman will be watching Turn 1 very carefully, ready to capitalize on any McLaren mistakes. So here's what we need to watch this weekend. Can Piastri and Norris navigate 4 competitive sessions without another Singapore-style incident? Will McLaren stick to their promise of letting them race freely, or will they be forced to implement team orders? How will Webber's behind-the-scenes pressure campaign affect the team's decision-making? And most importantly, is Verstappen's experience in title battles the deciding factor that McLaren hasn't accounted for? Circuit of the Americas always delivers entertainment, but this weekend could determine whether we have a 2-way McLaren battle or a genuine 3-way championship fight heading into the final races. What do you think? Can McLaren avoid disaster in Austin, or will Verstappen capitalize on their internal battle? Let us know in the comments below.